Serious question, but how the fuck did our parents afford to teach us how to swim? I know that survival swimming classes are so incredibly important, and I understand why they cost what they do. But at the same time, $35 a class, 4 days a week for 15 minutes for 2 months times 2 kids is crazy work.
And it's going to be worth every penny of it when they can swim, in my opinion. We put our kids through swimming lessons as well, 3 of them, anyway. Our parents didn't afford swimming lessons for us. At least not me or any of my friends. That's not how that shit worked. I'm one of the older people. I'm from Gen X, born in 72. And I literally learned how to swim by my father throwing me off the side of a boat in a lake north of Linton, Indiana. My family on my father's side is from southern Indiana, predominantly from the town of Linton, Indiana, in Greene County. And my grandfather at one point in time, when he eventually passed, he was living a little bit closer to town on a 33-acre parcel of land. But at one point in time, owned some land north of town that ultimately they never wound up building on. And there was a lake on that land north of town that the family still always fished on because they remembered it. And my father used to take me fishing too, and we'd drag a bass boat through a little bit of weeds and get it into the lake, and we'd go out fishing. And that's where I learned how to swim. I was on a bass boat, in a bass boat, with my father on this lake, and he went, "All right," and threw me into the water and said, "Kick your arms and legs, kick your arms and legs. You'll get it. Kick your arms and legs." This is the lake right here. And that's just kind of the way shit went. You know what I mean? You learned. And I don't know if that's because, okay, you learn by doing. And I don't know if that's how I became a guy who I could never learn by like sitting in a class reading a book, or even listening to somebody tell me how to do it or what it is. I don't learn that way. I learn by doing. I have to do it. And part of that was my childhood. You know, we learned how to swim. I learned how to swim, and a lot of people I know down in that area at that time learned how to swim by being thrown into a lake. Christopher Titus did a bit about how mothers give you knowledge. Mothers want you to know everything, and they want you to be prepared for everything, and they will give you all of the knowledge that you need. And fathers make you earn it, right? And then his example was, if a mother sees you going to stick a fork or a butter knife into a light socket, the mother will run over and slap your hand and go, "Don't do that. You'll get hurt doing that." She will give you the knowledge that you need to not stick a butter knife in an outlet. But a father will say, "No, no, 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 shh," and watch you do it. And when you went, zzz, he'd look at you and go, "You're not going to do that again, are you?" Because you weren't told not to do it. You learned not to do it by doing it. You know what I mean? You learned not to fuck around with a light switch and a butter knife by doing it. And so that's kind of the way we did all of our shit in Gen X. You learned by doing. And swimming was, now this is obviously not for everybody in Gen X, but a lot of people I knew, a lot of people I grew up with, this was the way. It was trial by fire, right? It was, you want to know how I learned how to drive? My father had a station wagon, one of them Chevy station wagons, blue with the wood paneling down the side, big old fucking monster boat. But he worked his ass off, and when he wasn't working, he was too fucking tired to do anything. So he slept. He either worked or he slept. And so while he was sleeping, my uncle Jake said, we can go teach you how to drive. You know how to start the car, how to drive it, right? The general idea of it. I'll kind of help you along." So we took my father's blue wood paneled station wagon north of Linton, Indiana, and I just fishtailed and sped up and down these country roads like a bat out of hell. Well, Tom, that sounds normal. Yeah, it would be normal, except for the fact that my Uncle Jake had 2 glass eyes and couldn't see a fucking thing. And so as I'm fishtailing at well over the speed limit for these country roads, all over these gravel roads north of Linton, Indiana, I'm going, how am I doing, Uncle Jake? And Uncle Jake is going, looks good to me, man. He's also the gentleman that took me to get my driver's license. It was a small town, about 4,500 people at the time I was living in, I believe is what the population was. Could be off by a bit. And there's a little bit of DMV in town at the time, and the people that worked there knew him. You know, he had a business in town before he went blind. And my uncle, my father let my uncle take me. You could do that back in the day to go get my driver's license, and we walked into that DMV with his fucking cane, and they recognized who he was, and there were people, you know, taking their tests and doing their thing, and. Little conversation at the counter. He's like, yep, here to renew my license. And the guy working at the DMV would have him put his face in that little thing where they do the lights at various points, and you're supposed to put your right hand up or your left hand up if you see the light on your right side or if you see the light on your left side. And he would stick his blind ass in that fucking thing, and he would raise his hands, boom, 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 do this fucking bullshit. And don't you know that my uncle with 2 fucking glass eyes had a fucking Indiana driver's license? Now, obviously, there was no cop in the fucking state that would actually honor it, but they printed him off a driver's license with his name and his address and his picture. That's how I learned how to drive. Get in the fucking car and go do it with your blind fucking uncle. That's how I learned how to not stick things in light sockets, by doing stupid shit over the years. And that's how I learned how to swim. By being rowed out in the middle of a lake north of Linton, Indiana, and being thrown overboard by my father, and kicking and fucking screaming until you figured it out, and watching your whole goddamn life up until that point in time flash before your eyes, because you're convinced that he's going to watch you drown in that lake if you don't figure it out. That this is my father's generation's way of thinning the herd, getting rid of the weak. My father was silent generation. There was no fucking around. Pay for swimming lessons. That's not a thing.